What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. I'm back. I'm trying out this game here. This is a game called Food Fantasy. Not sure if I'll go with it long term. I've been playing it for about a week so that I could actually talk about it rather than just, hi, I'm a noob. I have no idea what's going on. And I still don't know some of the things in this game, but I can go through it. So Food Fantasy, it's essentially kind of like a cutesy, has some anime vibes in it with like food combination, so it's kind of funny. So the way that this works, B52 is a drink. I'd actually get informed of that. Fogwas, that's duck liver, I believe it is. Black tea, it's black tea. Brownie, etc. So they got all these characters and they're basically food names. And the cool part about it is, like, let's say for instance you take black tea here. Well, these are all the attributes, your typical attack, defense, crit, etc. But the cool thing is, you come over here to their skills, and it'll tell you like what their skills do over here at the top left, right? Give you a little demonstration of it. And then they got this energy skill, which is essentially the super for the character. But if you run them with certain characters, so in this case, Milk, when Black Tea and Milk enter combat together, basically it's your energy skill but amped up. You see how this is 40%, and if I leveled it all the way, it would do probably like 1,000 damage or whatever. But now, since I usually run her with Milk, she now deals 60% of her attack on her ultimate ability, and then way more damage than it would be otherwise. And the other crazy thing about it is it becomes an active skill rather than a passive skill. This is normally just a passive skill that the food soul does on its own. But then this is something you can actually control. And they have various combos like that throughout. Like, you can kind of go through the different characters and see. Yuxuan needs plum juice. And etc, etc. B52 actually works well with Brownie. And some characters don't have this. Like, if I go through enough characters, you'll see one that doesn't. There you go. So Tom Yum, he doesn't have a super ability. So some of the characters, they don't get them. And not that they're bad, but, it's just one more thing you can't really control. And then not only that, but there are also characters that have kitchen skills. So there's a mini game in this where basically you run your own restaurant. And so when you click on these guys and you go to their skills, they got this tab over here, restaurant skill. And essentially what happens is freshness, that's basically everything in this game, not everything, a lot of things in this game take away freshness from your food souls, and you got to get it back either through consumables or you put them in this big ice rink that's actually a refrigerator, but it says send your food souls to skate, so it's kind of funny. But essentially, if you get their stars up, the stars is a different thing, you got to collect pieces of them. You can increase the food soul freshness, and that kind of helps them work in the kitchen a little bit better. It'll make more sense when I show you the kitchen, the ice rink, and essentially once you rank them up a bit more, you can unlock some of their other abilities. So like I can show you where's Skewer? Skewer is one I've actually unlocked. Here it is. Okay. So Skewer, you go to her restaurant skills. She has increased restaurant's customer flow by 45 an hour. So the more customers you have, the more money you're making, essentially, the more demand there is for your product. So there's food souls with the M's usually. They actually work in the kitchen and they work to make you passive money. Now, I'll show you the restaurant real quick though. This is the thing I was talking about with the ice rink. It's like ice arena, but it's clearly a freaking refrigerator. And then it's regenerating, and you can see that at the bottom of their portraits there. It's regenerating their food freshness, and then eventually when that's out, you can send them on little like delivery missions or explorations, and you can make them work in the restaurant as well. So this is your restaurant. It kind of works as your typical, restaurant simulator. There's all the customers right here. Up here at the top, the left thing is the tips. Tips is actually its own store. You can go and buy things, and it refreshes about every 5 or 6 hours, I believe it is. And sometimes there's food shards, sometimes there's embers is what you use to actually summon additional food shards. And this right here, this is your fame. You get your fame basically lets you unlock higher versions of the restaurant once you get the bar all the way to the edge. So, and then you need these little, this is what you get mostly in explorations, these screws and like bricks, freaking steel, and wood that you need to upgrade. And they got a little breakdown here of all of the, you know, which customer types come the most. So there's like Princess, Otaku, etc. How many seats you can have, how many dishes have sold, all that. And then, oops, I went out of it. So this is the money that you have, and this is the kind of like the crystals, basically the premium currency of the game. And you see there, customers come in, then like one of your attendants that you have, they'll walk over and serve them whatever the hell they want, and then they'll eat it. You have to actually prep the food over here, so that's what I've been doing. And then it gives you like a little timer and how long it's going to take. Now, all of these different stats, they work differently. From what I remember, I don't remember all of them, but aroma basically increases customer flow. So like bacon's really good for that because you smell bacon. People want to come in. Flavor, I think, I might be wrong on this one, but I think that increases your chances for fame. I believe that's how it works. A texture, one of these is they give you additional tips, which is the tip currency I already told you about. And I forget what the other one does, but I'm sure it's great. It might just be more money overall. But anyways, you tell them what to cook. It consumes a certain amount of freshness. And then you can bring different staff in. That's their freshness rating right there. And eventually we'll unlock all these other things over here. And then these are the waiters, or the waiters / waitresses. So they consume 1 freshness every time they're serving food. Occasionally there'll be a guy that pops in here and like he kind of takes your restaurant hostage, so you have to whoop his ass. And then these little things, the ghosts. So what happens with the ghosts is, let me go back to the breakdown. The ghosts actually screw up your inflow, because you can see here. Rube's Mischief, customer volume reduced by 10%. So you want to get rid of these ASAP, but there is a Exorcist glove that you can buy. It actually appears kind of rarely, and you just take them out and you get some currency like that. You can also, if you don't have any of those, you can request your friend's help, and hopefully they'll see it. And that's pretty much how this works. There's also different decorations, so you can change it. And then depending on how you decorate your store, it it comes back to either... It actually affects the stats. Hold on, let me mess with that again. So it'll affect the stats. Let me check the furniture store. So like depending on what kind of table you have, you see over here restaurant appearance increases 200% or 30% or 30 points rather, etc. So clearly the ones with the crystals, those are the ones that are going to affect you more. And there's all types of stuff. There's decor, there's background wallpaper, the floor, you can add a chandelier. Actually, I probably need to buy this better chandelier. Oh, I already did. Never mind. So that's how that stuff affects things, and you know, you just go back to whatever's selling you the most. Like, I actually forget. I think it was this one. Yeah. Well, anyway, so you can decorate your store differently, and if you just want to do that for the theme, you can do it too. And that's how the restaurant works. Research, you can actually research different food recipes depending on which items you got. You can just look it all up online. It was supposed to be like an experimental thing, but you know, you put in whatever and then develop and it consumes it. Proof. This is useful for when you go out and you actually make all the food. So the more of the food you make, the higher the stats go up. Like, let me give you an example. So I make one of these. Made exquisite, which is different than regular. That's cooking points. That's its own currency. I'll show you what that does later. And then this increased some of the stats. So flavor went up, aroma went up. And the more that you make, eventually you get it to A, and I'm probably guessing there's probably an S rating or whatever. And then there's refine. Refine is basically shows you, because there's different food cuisines. And you start with one, then you eventually unlock them all, but you can start with whichever one you want, and it kind of shows you, okay, you got this, but you still need these other ones. And you can actually feed the food to your food souls, and it gets them additional stat passive upgrades once you cross thresholds. This, I'm not entirely sure exactly what it does, but I know it affects the fallen angels. Fallen angels are basically like the rune or the equipment of this game. And you can give them these pills, and it says that they won't develop a certain nature. The different natures affect the stats, so I'm not sure which one Resolute does, but there's some that affect like HP, attack, crit damage, etc. So, on occasion, I'm guessing. In fact, I'll show you that right now. So, Fallen. Like I said, it's the runes of this game. They're all developing up here, but essentially what happens is it takes time for them all to get developed, and they have a certain chance to have, see all these different ones. They have a certain chance to be whatever out of these three, or in some cases it's multiple, etc. And then you can kind of see like, okay, this is the favorite food soul of the X character. And when it's the favorite food soul, they get a 10% boost to the stat of whatever the stat is. So that's kind of a cool little ability. But it takes time to do all this, and there's some that take 30 minutes, there's some that take 4 hours. I put up all the 4-hour ones. There's more to this, but, you know, I'm still learning it myself, so I gotta get there. Guilds, from what I've seen mostly from guilds, all they really affect is they give you some passive missions. There's apparently guild PvP at some point. Guilds also have their own currency, which you can come spend in the shop over here. And there's all this other stuff, but we haven't unlocked it yet because we're not a high rank guild. So talents, when I was talking about cooking points earlier, this is basically like your skill tree, so you can develop on different tabs, different abilities. I chose to max out the Dark Cuisine. Dark Cuisine is basically a dot. Does more damage to you the higher health you have, and it lowers defense, so it's pretty cool. There's also support abilities like a heal, immunity. Actually, this is the immunity right here. And the more you develop it, the better it gets. It lasts longer. It has a higher chance of proccing whatever the extra effects are. And then there's control. Control is basically stat buffs, removal, increase team's damage, increase team's defense. You can charm people. And the further you develop the thing, because they have branching trees that keep going, then the better the ability gets. But it costs a fair amount of these cooking points. Like, for instance, right now I'm starting to work on this straight cut, but the next rank's going to cost 1987 cooking points. But once I get it developed enough, it eventually gets to the point where... I'm trying to find it. There it is. Anything that's under 15% supposedly gets insta-killed, which will actually be pretty nice for some of these events. I'm sure there's some things that are immune to that, but... And there's like a whole lot of other stuff in this game. This is, the souls, like I showed you before, is where all the characters are. There's PvP, there's different trials. There's this little airship thing right here that shows up, and eventually you fill it up with whatever it wants, and it gives you different rewards. Which I actually need to do that pretty soon here. And then there's these exploration missions. So you send your guys out, then after the time period, they go and they, there might be a random encounter out there, and then they come back with rewards. And you can also send guys to deliver food. You just gotta make the food beforehand, and you get whatever the reward is. But right now, I'll show you guys some combat real quick, because I'm sure you guys want to see some combat. Let's see. I think of a place I can go to that's fairly cool. We'll come over here to Light Kingdom. Actually, you know what? Well, see if I can do... I can't do the epic chapter stuff yet. They all have like level requirements and clearance requirements. Oh, you know what? I think I screwed up. No, I didn't. Okay. So there's this disaster thing that is this thing over here. It's basically the raid boss of the game, and he'll whoop you after a certain amount of time, but you can fight him until then. So when you fight him, and you know, there's a ranking system depending on how much damage you do. They got these blessings, and of course the better ones cost crystals, but I don't got it, like such an amazing team that I'm willing to burn all that right now. So I'll show you guys how combat works. I'm gonna get whooped here eventually. There's no killing this guy, but let me pause it. So this right here, that's the time limit for the battle. If you manage to make it, that would be amazing. There's the boss's health. There's all your character's health. And this, to be perfectly honest, I don't even know what that is. Oh, okay, that's the little passive thing that gives you. And these are the active abilities. Like I told you earlier, if you run in with certain characters, you can actually control their special abilities. So this is B52. You can control his if Brownie's here. And then Black Tea and Milk, you can control each other's. This is Gyoza. He's one of the better early tanks in the game. And then you can increase the speed right here if you want. But you see how the raid boss is going. These are the buffs and the debuffs above the hero. And eventually, as these charge up a bit more, gonna go ahead and start unleashing hell on this guy. I'm gonna take one more AoE and then do my little heal ultimate. Milk's a healer, this is a tank, and everyone else is either magic or physical DPS. So we'll probably last right around until 9 minutes. I'll go ahead and speed it up a little bit. But this guy, to my knowledge, no one's ever killed him, like the server. He always ends up somewhere around the 70% mark. I don't know, because there's 2 servers, I believe, so I don't know if that's, you know, every server can kill him, or because I might have just got on the newer server. But I just upgraded Black Tea and B52's rarity, their ranking, basically, once you get more shards of them. So they're both dealing a grip more damage. That little milk bottle that you see, that's actually milk putting up a damage shield and a heal over time. It's pretty funny. And they just have like a lot of cute like food combination things, and you know, it gets to be pretty funny when you think of what would go well with what, and then and I gotta hope I can get this heal off before he kills my tank. Here we go. So he's getting close to the point where he's basically gonna start almost one-shotting people because he keeps buffing himself. The longer the battle goes, we're just trying to get out as much deeps as possible, but you see all that damage he's putting out on my awesome tank, so that's about to be that. I got a free revive, but the free revive doesn't help because he starts with all his buffs still. So I gotta either figure out a way to get a better tank or figure out some other way to do things. And he's basically like stunned everybody, so. And then you can revive once. He'll go through us in about like 20 seconds. Just the way it is. He gets to keep all his buffs. And I don't got any of my cooldowns because they all recharge. That's a little silly, but whatever. And as you see, the timer didn't reset. You're still at 12 minutes, so even if you could find a way to infinitely stay alive, eventually it's going to end. But hopefully someday I'll get to that point. And then as you want to keep going, it keeps asking you for crystals and stuff, which why would you pay crystals to be up for 20 more seconds? That's kind of an aspect of this game that doesn't really make sense to me. But so, yeah, this will be over soon, and then eventually there's going to be, it gives you a little, his skill to set stuff right there. Oh, you can dispel them apparently. There's only a couple cures in the game that dispel. There's also an ability. Now I'll show you guys what a regular fight looks like, because a regular fight's actually fairly different from that. Let's go to Nevris. So there are all these stages, and as you get more stars on some of them, you unlock more rewards. And you can these are the skills, which you couldn't see in the raid encounter. These are the possible drops from here. There's reviews, so you can read like funny reviews. A lot of the rage on the chest stages, which I actually understand, are pretty funny if you start playing this game, because the chest stages are actually the hardest. These are the active abilities you've unlocked for the team. Gyoza's, I forget whose it requires, but I don't have that character. And then Brownie doesn't get one. So you can adjust your team, you can adjust your abilities. There's a fair amount of abilities. This is a heal. This is like a AoE damage. This is a single target damage. This is the immunity. This is something that gives you additional damage for 6 seconds. This one does basically the same thing for defense. And this one dispels all stat bonuses from one random enemy unit. So basically a status bonus rather, so like buffs. Although what sucks is there's a lot of people that are immune to that. Like you want to take off this heal over time, and then you use that and it's just like immune and it heals like their entire life bar. It's kind of dumb, but so this is your typical fight. I might be actually Let me move myself. So on the left there, there's the energy bar, and there's also the active abilities. As the energy bar fills up, you're gonna go ahead and get the ability to use some of these active abilities. So like I could use the heal here. That'll give me a fair bit of healing there. And there's different waves, and you know, you just go after everything. Try to use your ultimate smartly when you get some active ultimates. There's multiplayer in this game, there's PvP in this game, there's trials, there's different, eventually, there's guild battle apparently, although our guild hasn't gotten to that point. Or at least, for whatever reason, we can't do it yet, I don't know, maybe it's not available for us. But anyway, so that's the way combat works, and it looks simple, because this is like a stage where I probably should have done it by now. But these chest stages are funny. Let me show you those real quick. We'll gung-ho there. Because it's funny because there's such rage, because the chest stages are actually the hardest on all the world stages, because most of the time, the chests don't actually attack you back, but they're so tanky, and they're basically like a gear check, but without it actually being, like, you're not required to do that much damage to clear all the non-chest events after that. So it gets to be kind of weird because they have these time limits like you see on the top here. And some of the chest time limits are like 30 seconds. And there's this weather effects. Like you can see these weather effects. It's just sun. But there's some that's like storm clouds and they silence you. There's some that are... there's this thunder that stuns you. And of course it doesn't affect the enemies most of the time. It only affects you. So it gets to be like a pain in the butt because you're about to kill something and you see your heroes all gearing up their ultimates and then all of a sudden there's a cloud that silences them and you're just like, oh my god, that chest is at like this much health. It's so rage-inducing. I understand why they're so obsessed with putting chests every, like 3 chests per event. The song is fire, but the chest is not. I feel like they have unfair cards right from the start. Not again. You see how everyone freaking please kill me in this chest, thanks. For your recommended level, I'm 34 and I don't care. So Sanma is actually, I don't have Sanma, but Sanma is apparently the best single target DPS in the game, and he just wrecks chests. Yeah, use Blade Chop Shield, only use attack and magic souls. And basically everyone rages on the chest. And I'll show you why. I gotta actually change out my team for this though. I can't have my tank, and I probably can't have my healer, although sometimes I can. Doriyaki actually deals a good amount of damage. Spin power! And everyone else, she's a healer, but she also enables her active, so I'm gonna see if we can work it with this. And then you also have to affect your, how much damage is that? 350. I'm trying to think maybe I'll try that rather than... Because this I can do on a 15-second cooldown. This takes... It's 15 seconds too, but depending on what your food souls are doing, they might not do that additional damage, so... Try to take this straight. And then this, for people, I explained it earlier, but basically... Poisons enemy, causes damage equal to 2.5% of current health every second, decrease in defense by 15% for 9 seconds, so... Cannot be dispelled, so pretty much it's a heavy dot as long as they have a decent amount of life left. And then even when they don't, it's still useful because it lowers defense. So look at this dumb chest, and this is the most rage-inducing thing early game. See how tanky it is? Now, granted I took a healer in here, so... But I just want to give you guys the reason this is dumb. So there's the poison thing, and then I'm gonna go ahead and hit B52's ultimate. And probably Black T's gonna get her ultimate off, yeah, before the defense goes down. Then I'm gonna straight knife this damn thing as soon as the poison's off. Because I want the poison to tick as hard as possible. So in this case it's not so bad, but imagine this was 30 seconds. Like, a lot of the chest events are actually 30 seconds. And then you also got, like, weather and stuff, like, screwing you up. That's how some of the previous chest events are, and it gets so dumb sometimes. But it looks like we'll be okay here. I've actually upgraded the DPS of my team a lot, so that's why this is going much better than it was. You tell him B-52, baby. And then we'll probably just get this down so we could lower defense and they'll finish it off. Then pop goes the weasel. Yeah. Once you can deal with it, it's fine. But man, dude, early game, if you don't have like the right characters, the chests just destroy you. I feel bad for people that get like screwed on their rolls. But anyhow, guys, I mean, there's a friend system. You can go to other people's kitchens and stuff, and you know, here's an example of once you've completed the explorations, you get like rock sugar, more rare ingredients, and this game's very ingredient heavy. So, you know, but those are my initial impressions of it. I got little things I don't like about it, but for the most part, I'm cool with it. It sounds so hostile right there. Must have spoiled. Oh, there's that guy I was talking about. The guy who's like, he's raging. Oh yeah, also, I couldn't show it because I did already, but there's a task. Basically, it'll give you a task like defeat a dine and dash. That's what this guy is. Restaurant eater. Or sell X amount of this food, get X amount of fame for this food, etc. So, but yeah, keeping up on the kitchen, basically, you get enough food so that you can go for a while, and then you make one of your premium dishes, because it takes a while. And then, yeah, this guy right here, it's a staff member. You know, you just take your typical team in. Let me take my tank in. Apparently at some point, there's a point of no return where you basically don't need tanks anymore for the most part, because everyone has so much health. You just want to have as much DPS in as possible. And these sometimes, like this lady's actually deceptively hard sometimes. Like watch, I won't even do anything. Watch what she can do. So she starts this. Oh wait, it's gonna take her a second. Alright, she charms your entire team and they just start beating the hell out of each other. And look at that, they just took out my tank like he was nothing. So you usually want to kill her before that happens in Gami. And yeah, so that's my initial impression of this game, guys. So I hope you guys appreciated this video. I'll probably try to do more little like newer player guides, because for those who this might be your first time seeing me, I only do guides on things I completely understand organically. I usually don't watch other people's videos just from when you're a content creator, you don't want to watch too many other people's videos, because inevitably you start stealing their techniques and their ideas, and you don't want to be like that. Some people do, I personally don't. Anyways, guys, but this has been my impressions on Food Fantasy, so hopefully you guys like this. And if you are interested in the game, I'm actually going to be streaming it in a bit. But if you're interested in the game, you know, maybe you watch some of my other videos, let me know. Pretty fun. I can give you a little bit of tips, but I'm not a super expert, although we do have an expert Tigrix in my Discord. You can come check him out there. And anyways, guys, that's it for me. So have a great day. Peace.